not necessary. Meaning and grammar are not obligatory fixed rules. It's important to understand that parts of the speech are not just defined by the semantics, but also they are determined by the semantic sentence, morphological behavior, and the intention you have when you are talking. This implies that meaning influences grammatical categories, but it doesn't necessarily completely determine it. For example, we have the phrase running is fun. The word running in semantics works as a verb, but in this case, in syntax behavior works as a noun because it's replacing the main character or the person in the sentence. So this shows that the meaning doesn't completely determine how the grammatical category works, but the relationship between semantics and syntax and morphology, and of course the intention you have when you're talking, determine how the grammatical categories function.
Okay, now let's talk about a big part, linguistic operation. But why? It's because in every single language around the world, the parts of the speech don't behave the same. But you must be wondering why. Well, this occurs due to the morphological syntax, which changes depending on the language. For example, in English we have the phrase "the man is tall," right? But we see here we say better. The verb to be, of course, is an adjective, right? But for example, in Russian, we don't have to use near article near the verb to be because the adjective is the same verb. Also, not in Chinese we don't use any verb. We just use this that means verb and at the same time is verb to be. That's kind of crazy, no? But there are some verbs that some adjectives that act like verbs also in Asian languages. For example, taides in Japanese, where the adjective is this one, but with the complement it comes into a verb. Or in other, you don't also have to use the verb to be. For example, in Arabic, you say el rajul, tawi, and nasol. Basically, it changes a lot.
So right now we are going to talk about delimitation and discourse function. First of all, I want to ask you how linguistics can decide what counts as a noun or a verb. This is not by the literal meaning. Instead of that, we analyze if it were as a plural determinator or a tense making. This because this brings us information to have a reliable classification. At the same time, grammar categories play a discursive role. For example, now introduce entities into a conversation, and verbs structures events and publication. Grammar is not just a form, it's about how information is communicated.
So now let's check tense and aspects. First, we have the tense. The tense show us the time when the action happened. Okay, it can be in the past, present, or future. And then we have the aspects. The aspects show us when it is an action that happened now or an action that happened in the past. And after that, we got the aspect. The aspect shows us how an action is developing. Okay? There is two ways to take this. The first is the form in ing, and after that we have the simple past. That always or regularly finish with s. Some examples can be and the other is finished, and this is to represent something that it's continuous but was happening.